Today, I am joined by another amazing female TV show host who I had the pleasure of being a guest on her show a couple of years ago. Sarah Stockham is a #1 Amazon best-selling author and the host of Simply Sarah, a dynamic TV show designed to enlighten, empower, and inspire service-focused leaders. With her energetic toolbox of practical techniques and a touch of mystical insight, Sarah elevates leaders' skills and mindsets, offering engaging discussions, valuable insights, and transformative moments. Sarah is also the creator of Peaceful Pathways, stress relief for women teachers approaching retirement, a community that helps busy, tired, and stressed women, especially women teachers nearing retirement, break stress cycles, rediscover purpose, and embrace lasting peace. A respected Reiki master, author, teacher, and speaker, Sarah facilitates profound healing sessions, leads group guided meditations, and brings the principles of self-care to life through her company, Reiki Claremont. With over 35 years' experience in education, Sarah has been recognised as both a master teacher and mentor teacher, earning prestigious awards for excellence in teaching. She holds a master's degree in education and administrative certificate, cementing her expertise and leadership in the field. Sarah, welcome to the True North Show. I am so happy that you're joining me today.
It is such a delight to be with you, Megan. Thank you so much for the invite.
You are very welcome. Hello and welcome to the True North Show. I'm your host, Megan North. I am a purpose finder, mental health professional, and guide for those ready to return to who they truly are. Here, we explore what it means to live a life led by purpose, alignment, and deeper inner truth. Through real conversations, powerful reflections, and soul-led strategies, we'll uncover the stories, tools, and insights that help you navigate life's crossroads and find your own true north. So whether you're in the middle of a transformation, seeking clarity, or just curious about what's next, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Your path starts now. Sarah is truly someone who has dedicated her life to lifting others up today, and today she's here to do the same for you. So Sarah, I would love to start by diving in and learning more about that defining moment that you decided to just step into and go with that passion and purpose that was calling you.
Megan, that's such a profound question. It's one that actually comes in chapters for me.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that one space, that some people do have. I was born and raised in the Democratic Republic of Congo. My parents worked there. My very first memories are of dancing barefoot in a cotton dress to the African drums, just that incredible vibration. And when I close my eyes, I can still be there. It was such a formative moment for me. And then we also literally lived 1 degree south of the equator, so we could see different stars than what you can in the northern hemisphere. And in addition to that was an airstrip that was a dirt airstrip. I mean, we literally lived in the jungle. And on that dirt airstrip, there would be dignitaries that would come and visit because of the work that my parents and other people from other nations were doing. And so in that incredible incubator, in that incredible space, we would have people from around the world come and share a meal with us. And frequently they would come in the morning in a small airplane and leave in the afternoon, late afternoon, to be able to get over the jungle forest and then back to where they were, into a larger place to spend the night. We could accommodate to some degree, but my mom has the most hysterical stories of talking about having the sheets clean first thing in the morning, and in the afternoon having a mouse having given birth to her babies in the day, right? And so the plan most often was that people would come in the morning, spend the day, be there for lunch. And our table, we had a cinder block house. It had a metal roof. the table that we use, our dining room table, was actually two sawhorses, those triangles that you use. And then there was a door that we put across those. And if you put upon an African piece of cloth over it, le voila, you have a beautiful table ready to go.
Wow.
And so people from around the world would come in and we would serve them consistently what we ate, which was rice, some greens that we call Jessie. They would often have palm oil on it. And then there'd often be chicken that would go along with that. And then there was always an abundance of fruit for a fruit salad.
Mm.
And so people would come in, this is what we ate most days. So I go back to that place because a defining moment for me was having a favorite person come and visit us. And I was so excited. I hadn't seen him. None of us had seen him for a number of months. And 4 or 5-year-old Sarah wanted to catch him up on all of the things that had happened during that time, the lizards that I had seen, all the different things, right?
Yeah.
And I felt this hand of one of my parents on my knee, and I just kept going. This is the table. This is my opportunity. It's so exciting. And then the squeeze began, and I knew that I needed to be quiet in that space. I go back to that because I think that there are places and times in every single one of our lives where we are ambitious, we are excited, we are on the edge, the cusp of sharing the excitement of life. And we have something that pulls us back and says, not the right space, not the right time, not the right energy, not the right something.
Mm.
So that was for me one of those defining moments of, can I find my voice? What does that look like? A few years later, we moved back to the States. My parents wisely would do 4 years overseas and then 1 year in America so we could have a full school year here in the States. Both my parents were in education, and so we had excellent homeschooling that was taking place.
Mm.
And in that space of coming back to the States, of feeling like I looked like I was supposed to fit in, and yet not having any of the culture, not having any of the understanding of how to fit in. And
Mm.
once again, around our dining room table would come people from all over the place who were curious about the things that my parents were working on. Once again, food became part of that space of conversation. Come stay for a meal. We will share with you what we're doing and what we're working on. So with that, then we fast forward that both of my sisters went into medicine. It wasn't that I wasn't smart enough to do it. I just didn't like the sight of blood.
Mm.
And so I have gotten so much better with it. But at that space and time, I just thought, no, I want to do something different, and went back to those first memories of what brought joy in my life, which was music. And we had mm, a piano that somebody had brought from South Africa before one of the revolutions inside of DRC. And that person had left. Someone else had purchased it. They decided they couldn't move it because it's so big and heavy. My parents purchased it. And from that point on, every place that we moved, this piano came with us. And so we had this piano, and my mother had understanding of lessons. She had taken lessons as a child as well. And so music became my outlet, my space. I have to use my words, but to be able to fit in, right? And so I played for high school musicals. I played for church gatherings. I played for all kinds of different things, weddings and funerals. And this is in, high school and into college. I chose then to become a music major.
Mm.
One of the defining points for me was marrying young, thinking that I had made the right decision,
Mm.
and realizing a few years in that that decision was actually a very harmful one. And I found a weapon in the house, asked why that weapon was there. And it took some time and some more asking before I found out that the person that I was married to was having an affair with the number one drug runner into Southern California at the time. And I had never done drugs. There wasn't a part of me that understood that world at all. And now I am in the birth canal of needing to grow up, needing to figure out what life is about, needing to understand if I was safe or not, trying to figure out some of those pieces of who am I? And
Mm.
I found this incredible therapist who was just starting out, is so gifted at what she does, and began going not just once a week, but twice a week. I was spending more on therapy than I was on groceries. I took a second job so I could pay for this. And
Mm,
she began to walk this life with me of helping me figure out who I am. And she was the type of therapist who wasn't interested in me being in her office for years. She was interested in me learning tools to be able to help me move forward. And
mm,
what an incredible opportunity that was for me. So I see that as one of the chapters of my beginning to say, this is who I am, this is who I'm not.
yeah.
This is some of the cloaking devices that I have used to be able to survive to get to where I am, but there has to be a way forward.
Mm,
So a few years later, I meet the person who is my life partner, my incredible husband. We have a daughter together. And another one of those chapters was having miscarriages. And in that space of having miscarriages, laying on the bathroom floor, the cold tile, and at this point, knowing that this would be the last time that I would be doing this because of my age, because of my husband being orphaned at 14. And we'd come to this point that we knew that I just knew laying on the floor that this was it. Going through that immense grief and so pleased that we had our daughter. And yet still that space of comparison, right? Looking around and seeing people who have 2 children, who have 4 children, who have 8 children, right? And going, we have one, and trying to figure out the verbiage to be able to share or to
mm,
say, we are so grateful that we have one. When
mm,
people would say, with literally, it felt like they had their hands on their hips, why don't you have more children?
mm,
And so finding the space to be able to, again, identify my path, identify what was important to me, what was important to us as a nucleus. And being a classroom teacher, I took our summers very seriously, and
mm,
we would play, Morgan and I, but part of our day was always spent in playing with words, playing with concepts and ideas and those kinds of things. And that has paid off so incredibly well. She defended her doctorate when she was 23 and has gone on to have an incredible career in what she's doing. But again, that space of feeling like what people were saying to me was, you should take this path. And for me saying, I've tried and that path isn't for me. So that began first in coming to the States and feeling like I didn't fit in.
yeah.
That came also in another chapter of being married and realizing that I'd be the first person in my family to be divorced, and what would that look like, and how would that reflect on my parents, and choosing that path and saying, this is where I am. I
Mm,
have to figure out how to go forward. And then the space of laying on this cold tile floor, and again, trying to figure out, what does this look like? What is my path forward? Because obviously, in each of those situations, doors were closing, and there was
mm,
a reason for that. It wasn't happening to me, it was happening for me.
yeah.
So fast forward decades later, I've been in the classroom for 35 years. I have loved what I have done. We've had schools closed down because of declining enrollment. I have moved into a position as a music teacher where I'm moving from school to school. We go through this shutdown. The school district that I'm part of is the one that has sent more marching bands to the Rose Bowl parade than any other high school, in part because we lived within 20 miles or so of that, but also because we were invested with our fourth grade students, about 10 years old or so. All of them began in the music program. The free version was choir. Everyone else took instruments. Everybody was involved in music every other day. And as I developed this and moved into this place, I had such a strong mindset of how I had finished my last year as a grade 2 teacher of singing in the morning. I frame my life with my thoughts and my words. And we had all created this little song that we would sing together, all 20 of us, and bringing this idea, this concept that a doorway, a portal is a place that we get to walk through, right? And so as we walked through the doorway into the classroom, that we were walking into a space that I got to create and set the intention for the energy in that. And it had worked so well for my 20 or so kids. What would that look like then as I had over 400 students across 5 different schools? Could I make this concept still work? And
Mm.
there was definitely a learning curve in
Yeah.
all of this because not every school was set up the same way that the one that I'd come from.
Mm.
And not everybody was necessarily on board with this idea that you can create the life that you want. We go through the shutdown, and I am aware that there is a clock ticking that of us children, we were the ones to say, when mom is ready to have somebody come live with her, we will be the ones to do this. And we began to notice this clock was ticking, and it was going faster than what I felt like I was ready to be able to leave the
Mm.
class. So there became this real dichotomy inside of me of how can I manipulate the situation. This is not an authentic thing to do at all. I'm raising my hand and saying I was there trying to manipulate it. And the thing that happened, again, happening for me, not to me, is that a student attacked me in the classroom. And that then began a deep road into PTSD, into EMDR, going back to the person who had helped me decades before, this therapist has now been trained in EMDR. And as I finish up the PTSD training, I began the EMDR training, the EMDR work of being able to allow my subconscious to release all of the things that had felt like it needed to hold on to protect me.
Yeah.
And so I share, Megan, that there were these thresholds, these stories, these chapters, these doorways, and that was really what shoehorned me out of
Mm.
uh, the classroom after 35 years. And then, as I was really grieving that space of leaving, Julie Meyer, who is a network president for Ari on TV, had reached out to me and said, I've been following you on YouTube. I know the work that you are doing. Come and have your own show. And my first conversation with her was, Julianne, what you are building is a business network. And what I do isn't business. And she says, I know. I want you to come along. And so I said, let me talk with Mike, my husband, and let's see what he has to say. And he said, Sarah, let's do it for a year. Let's figure this out. Try it for a year and see. And we are now past 3 years, and we had over 1 million views last year in long form and short form combined. Our audiences around the globe. And I am just so grateful that I get to continue to teach, that I could literally travel if I wanted to, and take and be able to do the things that I am doing, helping other people around the world open their eyes to a different way of being able to see perhaps the circumstances they find themselves in. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity here with you
Mm.
and amazing, amazing audience to be able to share just a little bit of my story.
Mm. Wow. One of the things that really stuck with me when you were talking about that is I would have imagined that when you started the therapy work with the woman after your first marriage, it would have been, I don't know, how was it that you were then talking through how you were feeling and articulating that? Because before that, you'd actually used your music in a
Right.
way of how you could express yourself. So it would have been, was it an adjustment for you to then to be able to sit and talk through things, or was it something that was a relief for you?
So, growing up in a household where all of my friends, going back to living in Congo, where my friends outside spoke a dialect, inside I spoke English, all of my education was in English. I really struggled to find words that actually fit the emotion.
Mm.
And my therapist, Carol, became my thesaurus. So I would go in and I would say, this is, and I would just kind of mumble around with what I was experiencing and thinking and feeling and, do the ugly cry and all those things. And she would have the words. And I would leave there going, oh, somebody has heard me. And so that really helped me move in a different way to find the space to find the right words. And again, then during the shutdown, I took another class and they would have us do some really deep work on take the level of, what you are feeling at this point, and then keep going down at least 7 different levels. And I found an app called, or a website called Word Hippo. It has a pink hippo on it. And I would go and I exactly the same thing. I would put in different words and keep looking for the word that I was actually looking for to define what I was feeling. And so still for me now, I still find myself, and sometimes I'll call my daughter and say, okay, I think the word might be, and she'll say, oh, this is the word that you need. And I'm like, thank you for that. And there are other people in my life also who I can lean into and say, this is kind of what I'm working on or thinking. And, can you put some words together that would make more sense than the 25 words that I'm using to say it? I think that there's a faster way of saying it. Part
Mm.
of the 25 words, though, is the tribe that I grew up with used the long way of being able to say what they wanted to say. And so that's definitely in me, right? And there are faster ways to say, to get to the point.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So it's really finding then that balance, isn't it? Because, what the culture that you grew up in is the long way, whereas now in these days we need to be more concise and get straight to the point. So I guess for you it's that real balancing of how can I give as much information as I want, but in a shorter period of time.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But still honoring the culture that you grew up with.
And honoring the energy of what I'm trying to express.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Because I think sometimes, when we're trying to work something out, sometimes we do need to just continue to talk it through to actually get to the point where we need to get to the point.
Yes. When I was mentoring new teachers, we had a huge sign on the wall of where we as mentors were being trained. And this is my paraphrase of it. But it had to do with people need to hear themselves speak in order to be able to process where they are. And that's not just for extroverts, which naturally need to do that. It's also for introverts. It's for anybody who is working through something new. They need to be able to see what the information is, see what the expectations are, and be able to talk through how that makes them feel, what's working for them, what's not working for them, where they're getting stuck, what feels sticky.
Yeah.
It's such an important, we need community. And I think that was, again, one of the pieces for me coming out of the shutdown, or what the gift for me in the shutdown
Mm.
was that space of recognizing really for the first time in my life how utterly important community is in person.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And it's interesting that you said that about people having to hear their own voice. It's one of the techniques that I use with my coaching clients because if they're really struggling with something, one of the ladies that I'm working with at the moment, she's in a job that she doesn't really like. And so she said that she then sits at work and she gets in her head. And so I said to her, why don't you at lunchtime go off, use your phone and actually do some voicemails, like voice messaging, just talk it into your phone and then an hour or two later listen to it because I said often you'll go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm overthinking that. I can just let it go. Because when it's your own voice listening back to yourself, sometimes then it's got already that healing property to it. Or you realize that I'm really overthinking something that I don't need to give any more energy to.
I was interviewing Eric Collette yesterday, and he is somebody who his business is called A Mind for All Seasons. And he helps people who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, even early onset Alzheimer's,
Mhm.
helps them. It's not a cure. He's very careful to say that, but they have found over 100 different things that we can do. And some people who have been institutionalized have actually been able to move back home as a result of working on these different pieces. Again, it's not a cure. But in my conversation, I was sharing with him something very similar to what you're talking about. I had been sharing with a client of mine that was just talking about all the minutia of life. And I said, just get it written down. Write down that you have to go to the grocery store. Write down that you're the one who's having to cook and to clean up. This is a 19-year-old artist who's having to do this on a consistent base, not for himself, but for other people around.
Mhm.
And as I was sharing this, Eric Collette said, you're talking about the open loop and how our brain, as it's doing that open loop, as it's going around and it's not closing anything, is actually causing us a higher level of stress. It's actually doing things to our brain that's unhealthy. And when we are able to do, my words, a brain dump, just get all of it out, using the voice memo,
Yeah.
writing it out, drawing it out, whatever your method is,
Yeah.
it helps close the loop for the brain. It gives the brain a space to go, ah. And then we have a to-do list that we get to look at and decide what on this aligns with me, aligns with the time that I have, what on this is something that just has been running around in there that maybe someone else had a should, that they thought that I should do this, but it really is, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I started carrying it rather
Mm.
than just caring about it. I began carrying it with me, and I can let that go. And
Mm.
so I think that that's such a beautiful place, is what you're talking about, of listening to ourselves to be able to determine what inside of this is really important for us to actually be taking note of, and what is just spinning on an open loop.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. I love that. I'm so glad that you shared that because that's like a really big mental aha moment for me. So, what a perfect conversation for us to be having today after having you
It's,
having interviewed yesterday. So, yeah, wow, I love that. Wow. Oh, there's so much. Like, I just love your journey is just incredible. Like, and I love how you call them chapters. I've never actually referred to them before like that. So I think I'll use that too. I think it's a really nice way of talking about the different parts and the processes and where we get to in life and then how that leads to something else and the next thing and the next thing. Yeah, it's beautiful.
and part of that for me is, by my own personality, by my own nature, I like to have closure on things. And so when I get to a point where I can talk about it,
Mm,
and there can still be emotion that's attached to it for me,
yeah.
but where I can talk about it in a way that I feel like I am gifting somebody else the opportunity to be able to look at their own circumstances through different eyes, that for me is such a huge win.
Mm,
And that's when I can start to say, oh, I think that that might be a chapter. And so there are definitely pieces of my life that I'm in the minutia of right now where I'm like, not, that's not quite a chapter yet. I haven't quite figured out how to, and that's okay as well.
yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. So obviously, there's been a lot of different things that have happened in each chapter. So, from a mental health and well-being point of view, is it something that has been at the forefront all of your life, or is it something that's new that's come in for you? Or, what does mental health and well-being mean to you?
So I'm going to share some things that may be triggering for other people. So I just put that out there
Yeah.
as a piece, right?
Hmm.
When my mother was pregnant with me, my father was taken hostage, and became an international incident. And there was a man who was a pilot who came in to try to check on them, to try to save them, to try to rescue them, who was killed. My mom and sisters then, along with the other wives and children, were released, allowed to go away. There have been some, UN was involved in all the things, right? And so my dad was held hostage for 11 weeks as my mom was pregnant with me. And she said that for the two of them, they figured out that they had to get through what they were going through because she was pregnant with me. I didn't really hear that story until my 50th birthday, and my father had already passed by that point. So I knew the parts of the story,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't understand the through line, the spaces of how all the pieces really fit together.
Mm.
So out of that, then years later, my oldest sister, who is absolutely brilliant, began to lose weight, and then began to exercise significantly, and then began to lose more weight. And so they took her to the doctor in Kinshasa. They did all the different things with expat doctors, no worms, no nothing going. There wasn't anything that was eating her from the inside. And finally decided, and this is about the time that Karen Carpenter made the front page of Time magazine when she passed away from anorexia. And so my sister was diagnosed. And so we began a long journey that was compounded a few years later when my aunt and uncle were killed by a car accident by a drunk driver. And my parents moved to help. We moved to Michigan to take care of my cousins for several years. And so at that point, then became this other conversation of how do you work through such a huge piece again, right?
Mm.
In the front row of conversations that you don't want to be part of,
Yeah.
and finding and going and being taken to a therapist when I was, 13 years old, and just being super, super angry. And I wanted to live inside of the victimhood. I wanted to live inside of my story. And you can't take this away from me. And it's okay to feel the pain. It's okay to be undone by the losses in your life, but it's not okay to stay there.
Yeah.
And so for me, that space of how do you move forward in each of these? We had from the point that I was born, a quiet time before we had breakfast. So we would get together. There would be this a spiritual devotional reading. There would be a bit of prayer time. We would have our hot oatmeal for breakfast, no matter where we lived, with some fruit salad. And so I began to lean into that. I
Mhm.
began to lean into old songs, songs that were spiritual. I began to lean in and discovered the importance of a quiet time. It's actually the sister who's closest to me in age who was modeling this for me. And so I have really, really found over the decades of my life, I'm 61 now. So from probably about the time that I was 11, I found this practice of an early morning, quiet before everybody gets up, opportunity to have conversations with the unseen world has been something that has been utterly important for me.
Mm.
I understand that that's not everybody's path or not everybody's space that they are in,
Yep.
but that for me, Megan, has been one of the most important long-term pieces. And sometimes I've journaled during that time. Sometimes I've listened to music during that time. It's changed through the years, right?
Yep.
I interviewed John Mitchell in August of last year, and he has a book out, and he talks about the life GPS and creating a life GPS. What is it? 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. The things that we say are subconscious. The ways that we act are subconscious. What are we feeding that? What are we wanting? What are we desiring? And using the minutes in the morning as our brain is beginning to wake up to be able to speak to that very, very specifically. And
Mm.
so I then looked again at what I was doing in the morning and began to renegotiate some of those pieces so that I have this life GPS piece that I'm doing as well. So it
Mm.
hasn't been static. It hasn't been just the same all the way through. As I grow and learn and experience and hear and all the rest of that, I continue to come back and look at my practices and see if those practices are really continuing to support me, who I am right now and where I am right now.
Mm. And thank you for sharing that, and also the comment of that's what works for you, because that's why I always love to ask this question, because I think that, when we talk about our own mental health and well-being practices, it definitely is that what works for you. Here in Australia at the moment, and as I am sure it is all over the world, for the last couple of years, the ice bath, the not epidemic, but the ice baths, I would not do that even if you paid me, well, if you paid me $1 million, maybe. But, that's not one of the things that I would ever consider doing.
Right.
But other
Right.
people say it's the best thing that they've ever done. Great, fantastic, but
Yes.
just not me.
Right.
And I
Right.
think it's so important that when we're looking after ourselves and working through things, that it's what works for us.
Mhm.
It's so important, not what social media is telling us is the latest thing, or you should be doing this. So thank you for sharing that, because I just think it's a really beautiful message for people to hear again, in the
Mhm.
sense of take the pressure off, do what's good for you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And speaking about ice baths and morning quiet times or yoga or breathing techniques, I think that every single one of these things is an opportunity for us to again, my words, people are going to have a different way of seeing this. I believe that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
Each of those spaces allows me a space to be able to go, oh, yeah, this is my body now,
Mm.
not my 18-year-old body, not
Yeah.
my 97-year-old body.
Yeah.
This is my body now. And how can I best integrate who I am authentically in the space that I am to be able to be that person?
Mm.
So I think that any of those different spaces, 'cause I think of people also who walk on coals. And I
Mm.
think, again, it's a similar kind of thing as an ice bath, right? It's the
Mm.
mind over the body experience.
Yeah. 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 Beautiful. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it as well. Yeah. Um, Is there anything that you've ever tried, like from a you've seen it and you thought, "Oh, I might try it," and just thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna do that again," from a mental health or well-being point of view? Is there anything really crazy or quirky?
Hmm. I tried I tried a sound bath and thought that was very, very interesting
Mm,
and found the vibration to be very interesting.
mm,
There was someone else who did gongs, and I found that to be not something that I needed to do again. I mean, if I was
yeah,
in the presence of and somebody said, "Hey, this is what we're all doing," I would definitely go and do that again.
yeah.
But there was a screeching on one of the gongs that sounded like taking, this is very old school, but taking your nails on a chalkboard. And I just found, that in the back of my head was like,
Mm,
and
yeah,
maybe that was helpful for somebody else and help somebody else release something. I don't know. For me, that was, let's just please get through this. Let me move into my deep breathing in
yeah.
order to be able to get through this. So that's just one of my personal.
Isn't that interesting? Ah, that's yeah, I wonder, I suppose it's a different megahertz, a different vibration, I've never heard of that before, so that's really interesting. So when we talk about passion and purpose, so
Mhm.
with all the different chapters that you've been through in your life, how do you know when something is in alignment? Like, do you feel it? Do you know it? Is it a combination? Like, what happens in your body when something aligns for you?
Such a powerful question, because there's the brain response of, can I fit this into my life? Or does this really align with me? Or is this really the right thing? Right.
Mm,
And this was why my morning practice is so important for me, because I have learned to say, let me process that, to the point that people will say, and now, Sarah, you're going to say, you want to process it. And I'm not offended by that at all, because I do need to have some time to process.
mm,
So recently somebody came to me. We were helping to cook food for the homeless. So I had signed up for that. It was a great thing to do. It's not my first time to do it. I knew what to do. In college, I'd worked in food service. This works, right? I have some level of understanding of what to do in a commercial kitchen.
yep.
So they're working. I'm good at that. Prior to us walking in, somebody had said, "Hey, can you also deliver to da 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 da?" And my response was, "No, we have a short period of time after this. My husband's leaving tomorrow for a trip, and there are some things that we need to get done." Now, that was certainly simply me saying it, right?
Mhm.
Had they asked my husband, he would have said, "We've got this, we're going to do it." And so then, as we were in the car later on talking, I said, "Should we have changed the answer?" And his answer was, "Let your yes be yes and let your no be no."
Mm,
But I was answering from an energetic of, I can't in the moment see how I can take on one more thing.
yep.
So I'm in a very different chapter of my life right now. We are living here with my mom. She's almost 91. She's doing incredibly well.
Oh,
She is out of the house 6 days of the week on a schedule on the different things that she's doing, visiting people who are homebound, doing different things. She has been in this spiritual work all of her life, is continuing to do that. In order for her to continue to do the things that she does, it takes both of us to keep all of the things going on. We're doing the grocery shopping, we're doing the cooking. Yes, is she showing up and doing some of those pieces every now? Yes, absolutely.
mm,
I find now that we've been here almost 3 years, that I am just beginning to figure out my new schedule. And maybe that schedule is going to have a lot more freedom and flexibility to it,
Mhm.
maybe not. So, one of the things that I have done is taken what I did when I was a classroom teacher, and this has been incredibly helpful for my mental health, is that I, on Sundays, will write down and take my phone, everything that's written in there, everything is on my phone, right? On the calendar, and I hand write out my week. I use a shorthand that I've created for myself, but I write out my week. I
Mhm.
want to know how my energy is going to flow through the week
Yeah.
the best that I can on a Sunday. I've been doing this since 2008. It has been such a helpful piece for me. And I've been able to get so much more done. I've written several books. I have authored, been in a chapter of a book that has gone to a #1 Amazon bestseller. I think as a result of this Sunday practice that I have that I learned from Darren Hardy. Another piece that has been really helpful for me is, and I've written about this in one of my books, Reiki and Goal Setting, is that I look at my year and I take 12 pieces of paper, one for every month. And I write down the birthdays, the things that happen every single month. In America, we pay taxes in April. Put that on the April paper, right? All these things that happen.
Yeah.
Need to have gifts for certain things, maybe back that up to the previous month or so. Rather than giving, I learned this also from Darren Hardy, rather than giving Christmas gifts to people, I reserve that for family. Everybody who's in the business, when I was in the classroom, everybody that I taught with, everybody in that space got Thanksgiving gifts because I was thankful for them, right?
Mm.
Thankful for the work that we were doing together. And still now, for my business partners, it's Thanksgiving gifts. Again, looking at my energy, working in such a way that I'm able to have downtime that I can protect, because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, right? The rest is the work.
Yeah.
It's easy to keep busy. It's easy to keep going. When
Yeah.
you stop, being in that space of allowing everything to settle, that's the real work. And so I have taken to, after trying it different ways, I have a week a month that I do my recordings for my show. And again, I pre record most of the time because, like you, I'm recording people from around the world. I want them awake, I want them at their best. And I prefer that than saying, hey, come, let's have this conversation at 2 o'clock in the morning, your time.
Yeah.
And so that has been another piece that's been very helpful for me. I also see clients and I see them on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And the reason I do that then, and I have certain weeks so that my goal is that nobody can get onto my calendar the last week of the month unless I put them on there.
Yeah.
I want that space and time to be able to do whatever I need to do to do life.
Yeah.
And so that has been for me again a very important part of my own personal um, mental health, my personal scheduling, and at times it's really uncomfortable because other people have their agenda and have things that they want to do and how they want to do.
Yeah.
And so that space of authenticity for me, going back to your earlier question, is coming into that place of being uncomfortable and saying, I'm not available.
Yeah.
And oh, that can be really hard to get the words out,
Yeah.
but then also to sit inside of the energy later on. And it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I do that too, like on a Friday.
Mhm.
I don't work on a Friday. Today we're recording on a Friday, but that was my choice to do
Right.
that. And
Yeah.
so it's those boundaries, isn't it? It's the I'm
Yes.
setting the boundaries. And if someone else has an issue with it, then for me, I feel like, well, actually, then you're probably not aligned to me. Because if
Mhm.
there's not that mutual respect, then we're probably not meant to be working together anyway.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really good test. Not a test, but like I don't know. Maybe it is a test. I don't use the word. It's not the test. It's not test in that sort of sense, but it's just got that energy around it of,
Mhm.
okay, well, if you've got an
Mhm.
issue with it, then it's
Mhm.
not my problem. It's yours.
And that's such a great place to come from, to understand that other people do have their agendas.
Yeah.
They do have their expectations. And it's very interesting that when you do say no, when they come back to ask the next time, I have noticed they come back with a different energy.
Yeah.
It's not I expect you to, I'm asking you with this, an expectation that 99.9% of the time you're going to say yes. They come much more with to me, it's more thoughtful,
Yeah.
more reverent, if
Yeah.
that's a way of saying it, a different energy. And I have such respect for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I'd love to talk about the peaceful pathways, specifically for the women teachers approaching retirement.
Yeah.
So, what was the moment, or when was the moment that you just knew that that community was needed? Like you needed to create that community.
It really came from people in my life saying, Sarah, you don't see how the people who are in the space that you were 4 and 5 years ago, what you have gone through is to help them. Because I
Mm,
was like, oh, I'm going to go help entrepreneurs. I'm going to go, and I have. I've helped people who are at the top CEOs, right? And that's been so fulfilling and exciting to be able to teach them these tools that work consistently. We have a 10-second window from the point that we have a stressor come in, and stressors are completely unique to us, whether it's a sound, a smell, a text, whatever it happens to be. The person next to us can have the same experience and not be triggered by it.
yeah.
And so from that point, from a resting heart rate, not from an elevated heart rate, from a resting heart rate, we have 10 seconds, and it's called the 10-second solution. Al Ingalls was the person who coined that, and I love that phrase. And so in that space of the 10 seconds, if we use a tool, we can stop the catecholamines, we can stop the stress hormones from flowing through our body. If we don't stop them, fine. However, it will take up to 9 hours for biological men and 24 hours for biological women for those hormones to work through their body. So prior to doing this research and the work and finding this out, I'd be like, Mike is over it and I'm still stewing on whatever it was, right? And now I understand why. He had gotten through the stressors much faster than I had gotten through them. And so it took several different people over several months of really speaking into my life. And I see teachers not as somebody who went through the education system to be in a classroom. I see teachers as people who teach out of the overflow. They have this abundance, this reservoir of knowledge, and they teach. They can't help themselves, but want to share their information to make someone else's life better.
Yeah.
And I have found, again, going back to the shutdown, this space of it being a community for women. Do I work with men? Of course. But this space for women has been something that we have people who have been in this space of spiritual teachers. We have people who've been classroom teachers. We have people who've been second language teachers coming together. And sometimes they spend a lot of time listening to others before they choose to start speaking in the group.
Mm,
The first 3 Tuesdays of the month, again, honoring that last week of the month, right? And so it gives us an opportunity to be able to get together. I always come in with a 10 to 15 minute PowerPoint to be able to share, looking at a new tool, looking at a tool through different eyes. Maybe it has to do with finances. Maybe it has to do with interpersonal relationships, but looking at life, right? All of that, and being able to have a place that we can walk life together and say, these pieces of moving into retirement, whatever that happens to mean
yep.
for people, it can just feel so difficult to leave behind the labeling of what you have known, the scheduling of what you have known, and
Mm,
be walking into the space of, oh, you have such freedom. The freedom doesn't feel very free for so many people.
yep.
And so even for women who know what they're going to be doing next, that transitional piece can be very, very difficult.
Mm.
Learning these tools, being in community, it changes things.
Wow, that's so beautiful. What a gift that the world has because you're in it. I think that there's so many beautiful things that you do, and that teaching is It's funny, isn't it? Like you do, I teach. I've got all my oracle cards here, oracle and tarot, in
Nice.
person and online, and I love it. I love teaching. It's just that because you just bring so much joy to people.
Yes.
It's just a joyous process, isn't it? That when you that wisdom that you can impart with someone, that you just know that it's just going to help them that day or that week. It's just a beautiful
Mhm.
feeling. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And to be able to see life through a different perspective,
Yeah.
I think is such an important piece. Whether or not you choose to sit in that camp and align with it. I just had lunch today with people who are incredibly spiritual, beautiful spiritual people, and people from Africa, people from here in the States, gathered together, people who have incredible wisdom.
Mm.
And they got onto the topic of politics, which is one that I choose to stay away from.
Mhm.
There became a sharpness in their voice.
Mm.
And I just found it very, very easy to dismiss myself, to take the different plates off the table and bring the next course out.
Yeah.
During this time, it worked well, right? But on reflection, what I wanted to ask was, have you stopped and put that person in the light? The person that your voice becomes so sharp about. Have you taken time today to see that person surrounded in the unseen world, surrounded in light? And so I think that, again, that space of being able to see, we don't need to accept it. We don't need to say, "Ooh, that's for me." I'm not saying that walking on coals is for me,
Yeah.
but I do want to say that for the person that that is for, can I wrap my brain around seeing that they are on a journey, and
Yeah.
can I celebrate that journey?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that I can.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Very good way for me to sort of look at things differently as well. So thank you. Again, another aha moment. I'm really grateful. So we actually do literally only have a couple of minutes left.
Mm.
I've only asked you like 3 questions. I had like 10 that I wanted to ask you, so I'll have to have you back so that we can continue the
I would love
conversation.
that.
But,
Yes.
so I'm gonna ask you the same question that I love to ask all of my guests before we
Mm.
finish our conversation. So, Sarah, what is one lesson or truth that you've learned on your journey that you wish you had known earlier?
Mm. I've never said it this way before, but it just seems so appropriate to say.
Mm,
I grew up where I was the only white kid my age. I had blonde hair and I had a beautiful group of friends. We did everything together.
yeah,
And when I came to the States and I was with other people who looked like me, who were my age, I struggled with figuring out how to authentically be myself. And I think that part of the chapters, part of the doorways that I have gone through has been like a coconut, and the outside hull has been slowly coming off, right? And that we are finally starting at 61 to get to a space that I can walk through a door, authentically be myself. And if things land well, great. If I flub up, so be it. If I need to apologize, figure out the way to do that, Sarah.
yeah,
And to be okay with that. We moved 3 years ago, and there are certain expectations that are here in the culture that I'm living in right now that
mm,
it's not my culture. It's not how I grew up.
yeah,
It's my father's culture. I understand it. But at times I still I find myself doing deep breathing. Even my husband will say, "You're breathing." And I'm like, "Yeah." And so again, that space of being able to gift freedom to other
mm,
people, allow them to be the space that they are in, and then come into my space and go, it's okay. I can still be me. And I think one of the beautiful things is having the internet and be able to find your tribe, be able to find people that you connect in with.
yeah.
And Megan, I'm so grateful for you and the work that you are doing, and the tribe that you are creating, because it's so powerful for people to find their tribe.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you so much. What a beautiful way to finish our conversation. I'm so blessed, and I have really, really enjoyed this conversation and just hearing and
Too.
learning more about you as well. I think it's just really beautiful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you to your audience as well. What a beautiful audience you have.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The True North Show. I hope today's conversation brought you closer to your own sense of purpose and reminded you of the power you hold within. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who's also walking the path of becoming. To continue the journey, head over to megannorth.com. You'll find resources, support, and ways to work with me one-on-one. Until next time, keep trusting yourself, following your intuition, and taking one aligned step at a time. Your true north is never lost. It's just waiting for you to come home.